Thank you very much for your time today. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Kerry, and thank you for having me along today.
Thank you very much. So it's worth noting that today it is the 6th of April and it is 4 p.m. Just because everything's changing so rapidly, it's worth noting that at the start. So Karen has kindly agreed to answer a lot of members' questions that got submitted to us about the funding of the 80% funding for wages. Most member questions were regarding this, so I think everyone's quite eager to find out some information regarding the scheme. So the first question that we got was, how do we apply for this? How do we apply for the scheme?
I guess this is the one question that we don't really know the answer for at the moment, Kelly. You will apply through HMRC to get the grant money paid to you. You will also apply through a new online portal system. Although when I checked today, this new online portal system is still not available, and they said it will not be available until the end of April.
Okay.
So you're going to have to know all your employees that are on furlough leave, your pay-to-earn reference number, the date they went onto furlough leave, and then keep all that details to do your claim when the new online portal system gets introduced.
When it's introduced, perfect. And will we receive a notification, where can members look out for the information for this? Just on HMRC website, is that the best place to go?
I think when they are doing their normal PAYE submissions, I think there'll be more details on that. But I think as soon as this becomes available, it'll become quite widely known.
Yes.
Because it is something that every business that's affected by it, and it is largely probably 99% of businesses at the moment. They're all waiting to see when this online portal will come live.
Okay, perfect. So we can obviously share that with members if we see anything about that as well.
Definitely, we'll keep you updated.
Yeah, great, thank you. And so the next sort of common question was, how do they calculate the 80% pay for workers with variable hours? And there are a few questions about sort of part-time hours, 0-hour contracts, and just how that is worked out.
Yeah, the scheme, Kerry, is available for all employees really, whether they're full-time or part-time, whether it's flexible hours or actually whether they're on 0-hour contracts. For people that are generally full and part-time people on contracts, then you just basically base it on their contracted hours. So it's 80% of their normal gross salary before deduction for tax and national insurance. For people on 0-hour contract or flexible hours, you can either base it on if they've been there for 12 months, you can base it on the same month 12 months ago, or an average of the 1920 monthly earnings. Okay. So that would be your two options. For people that have been there less than a year, you can base it on the average of their earnings from when they started up to the 5th of April 20. So the average of their monthly earnings 1920.
Average, okay. Perfect, thank you. The next one kind of links in with that. You mentioned about the national insurance. So just do the national insurance payments get deducted from the 80% pay?
Yeah, you just do your calculations as normal. The gross pay becomes the 80% of the contracted hours, and then you deduct tax and NI as appropriate from your employees. The employer's national insurance and the employer's minimum pension contributions, minimum set by the government, will also be funded through this grant. So employer's NI and minimum pension contributions also funded through the job retention scheme. I think it's important that again, that's all up to a maximum of £2,500 salary per month. So if you've got a very high earner and it is the minimum, it is the lesser of 80% of their salary or £2,500. Okay. So that's only for employers that have got higher paid staff. Okay. But at that level, they will also pay the employer's NI and the minimum pension contributions for that minimum of 80% of salary or up to £2,500.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Lots of information there. Moving on to the next one. So I think this is maybe when there was a bit more uncertainty about who was going to stay open and who was going to be closed, but does it apply to all workers, including retail, and not just places who have been so far asked to close?
It applies to any business that's had to lay their employees off through COVID-19. One thing that's really strict is that while somebody's on but while you put them on furlough leave, they can do no work for you whatsoever. So you can't have part of the week them on furlough and then part of the week that they're not on furlough. So you're either on one or the other. You're either on furlough leave or you're working, but you can't have a mixture of both.
Okay, great. That answers one of the other questions as well, because we did have a question about, if there were other jobs for them to do, could they do that whilst on furlough? But it's a no, it's one or the other.
You're either on furlough or you're not.
Or you're not. Perfect, thank you. The next one was, we've covered this kind of already, I think, that does the employee have to earn a certain amount per week to be entitled? So obviously you've covered that 0-hour contract, anyone is entitled to this, so there's no minimum. That's
exactly right, and you just work it, as I say, either the same hours the previous month last year or an average of their hours over the 1920 year.
Great. Is there a starting age to be eligible? So, for example, would a 15-year-old Saturday worker, would that apply to them?
I haven't seen anything to say that there is a minimum age. So I think that if they're normally there and they're normally getting paid and it's going through your payroll, then I think that they could be put onto furlough as well.
They would be covered. Okay, great. A lot of just other wordings of the hours which we've covered. Is it February hours to be used with everyone? We've covered that there's 2 options of how to do that. A lot of uncertainty about that, but I think we've already covered that one. The other thing I was going to ask about was information for self-employed people, new information that's come out about that.
That's a great question, Kelly. And more information just came really online over the weekend about that. So if you are self-employed and your business has been affected by COVID-19, then HMRC will look at your average profits over the last 3 years. They will then come out with an average yearly profit, divide that by 12 to get an average monthly profit. You can hear the traffic. To get an average monthly profit, and at the moment they will pay 3 months of that average monthly profit.
Okay.
Now HMRC are going to get in touch with the taxpayers, and we don't know quite how this is going to happen, but they say they will contact. This is not a scheme where you can make the contact, they will contact you.
Okay.
And there will be what they've called a simple form to fill in, and then they will pay this 3 months as one lump sum into your bank account. They have said it's for trading profits of up to 50,000. Again, it will be capped at 80% of that average monthly profit, or £2,500, very similar to the employees' rule.
Yeah.
The majority of your earnings have to come from self-employment. So if you're employed and you've got a self-employed sort of business, a part-time business, and self-employment is not your main income, you will not be eligible for this grant. Okay. You have to have filed an 1819 tax return, and for anybody who hasn't, they sort of gave you a 4-week window to submit yours late and still be eligible for the grant. So anybody who hasn't filed their 1819 tax return, do that immediately. I think you've got till about the 23rd of April to get that in to be eligible for the grant.
Okay.
You have to have traded in 1920, so your business can't have stopped. And you do have to intend to trade after COVID-19 ends.
Okay.
So you can't get the grant and then decide not to reopen your business. You must trade after, when everything goes back to normal again, you must be back to trading.
Okay. Okay, lots of information there, but it's something that's really useful. We'll get this out ASAP, and then hopefully anyone who still needs to do that can get it done as quickly as possible. Yeah. So there was another kind of non-related question, which was about asking for extended credit terms from suppliers, and what happens if businesses simply don't pay their bills.
I know, I think that's a tricky one. I think it is good to ask for extended credit terms. Certainly anything that you're maybe buying on hire purchase or loans from banks. I think those type of financial arrangements you can ask to be postponed for 3 months. You'll still have to make the payments in full and pay the debt in full, but good to get a bit of cash flow leeway perhaps by just not paying them over the next 3 months. Other suppliers, if you can get extended credit terms, that's great, because at this moment in time, really cash is going to be king for any business. If your customers stop paying you, I think that's really tricky. I think you have to keep communicating with them. See if maybe if they can't pay the bill in full, if they can pay it over a period of time, offer them extended credit terms, but maybe offer to try and collect the money over a 6 or a 9 month period. So that you just don't collect anything, you actually start to collect some of the debt.
Yeah.
But if your customers are really not paying, I think you need to speak to your bank. Look for increased overdraft facilities, or possibly look at the bank interruption, the COVID-19 loan interruption scheme that they've introduced, which is now easier for small businesses to apply for.
Okay.
So I think that's probably your options. I think, you know, cash flow is going to be the most important thing, Kelly, for any business through this period. Looking at your cash flow weekly, monthly, quarterly, and as things change, then amending your cash flow accordingly. Hopefully businesses can in the next, you know, maybe 2 to 3 months start to earn a bit more money and get a bit more back to normal. But I do think for a lot of businesses now, we're going to miss the summer season. And it's going to be a long winter. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a stressful time for everyone. Okay, that's good. So a lot, just communication really, and just keeping,
I think that's really important. I think communication with your customers and your suppliers, so that they know what to expect from you and when to expect. And for your customers, that's really important. It's like how they can pay you, perhaps make it more affordable for them to pay you over a longer period of time. And if they're not paying you, then speaking to your bank. Hopefully they will all pay at some time. Maybe just not pay until we're out of this current crisis.
Yeah, okay. Well, that was all of the questions that I had submitted from members. So I think we've covered everything that we had submitted. So I think there's a lot of information there for everyone to digest, and I think a lot easier for people to watch a video and hear it from a friendly, familiar face, because there's just so much, you know, so much out there and so much information to read through. So I really hope that it's helpful for some of the members.
That's great, thank you.
And thank you so much for your time.
Very good, thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.